Charge Motion. My name is Saximus.
My name is Ghoul.
And today we're here to talk to you about fighting games.
Fighting games.
Brought to you by TwoGuysToysAndMore.com.
So today, we have a lot of stuff to talk about.
We do. We've had a lot of really great news recently.
Oh yeah, absolutely. First we're going to be covering Skullgirls and all the exciting news around that game. After that, we just got a ton of Guilty Gear footage the other day. So we're definitely going to be talking a lot about that. I'm excited about Guilty Gear. Yesterday, we received all of the huge info dump for the Street Fighter V Winter Update.
Winter Update, yeah.
That's exciting. New mechanics, new characters. So we're going to be getting into that. We're also going to be talking about the upcoming online tournament, the Quarantine Report.
Alright, so... Oh, God, I'm sorry, I have to talk about this. For a bit of context. Skullgirls is my favorite fighting game of all time. It is the fighting game that got me into fighting games. And it has not had any new content since, I think, 2015.
I think that sounds right.
Yeah, when the last character, RoboFortune, was released. It had a couple balance changes since then, but RoboFortune was the last character. It was 6 years ago. Well, five and a half, because it was in the summer of 2015. And at the end of Frosty Faustings 13, which was this online tournament, it was so exciting to watch. Congratulations to the Kill Stage for winning the Skullgirls bracket. We already knew that we were going to finally get a 15th character, Annie of the Stars, who's been a fan favorite. And I could go into this whole thing with Annie and the character donation drives during the crowdfunding campaigns and yada yada. But anyway, we got an announcement not only that Annie is very close, but that we're getting a 16th character. We're finally getting more content for this almost decade-year-old game.
Yeah, nice even number of characters there.
Yeah.
So getting not one, but two characters for a fighting game that hasn't seen content in going on 6 years is incredible.
And especially with all the stuff that happened with the developers over the summer, which we're not going to get into for a myriad of reasons, the least of which being the fact that it's old news.
Yeah, definitely old news there.
But yeah, a Hidden Variable, who develops the mobile game, which Annie of the Stars is already in. They're bringing... Autumn Games, the publisher of Skullgirls, is working with Autumn Games to bring Annie and future characters, fingers crossed for Umbrella, to the main game on PC and consoles.
Which is exciting. So I saw the trailer for Annie. Now, I'm not a Skullgirls player.
Right.
I have played Skullgirls. I played Skullgirls with you.
Yeah.
And I've done some labbing here and there, but I wouldn't identify myself as a Skullgirls player. But I watched the trailer for Annie, and she seems really interesting.
She kind of looks like Soul Bad Guy.
Almost.
Anime. Well,
yeah.
Soul Bad Guy's already anime. Yeah.
Yeah. Soul Bad Guy, but Skullgirls.
Yeah, she has a beam super, she has kind of a stinger super, and she has an install super. I don't know the mechanics behind her install super yet, but she seems to be, fairly rushdown oriented character, and I have no idea what she can do with the stuffed rabbit, whose name I forgot. But it looks like it might work kind of similarly to Misfortune in her head or Eliza with Horus and Atlas.
Yeah, so just sort of like placing things on the screen and controlling that area, almost like a puppet style character.
Kind of, or using Sega. That's the right thing to kind of like extend her combo, stuff like that.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, I went into this and I was watching top 8 of Skullgirls with my full attention. First of all, because it was really good, it was really exciting, and also because everyone was watching because we were waiting for like a definitive release date for Annie, because we've known about her since last summer, but we didn't get that. We got early 2021, which it is, but I'm okay with the knowledge that we are getting a 16th and possibly more than 16th character.
That would be awesome, because like I said, I'm not a Skullgirls player, but being in contact with you and like just being on like social media and witnessing the Skullgirls community and like how passionate all of you guys are about the game.
Launch party never ends.
I'm excited for you guys to be getting more, and it made me want to play the game more. Like I've spent the past couple days like labbing the game and like trying to learn things about it, and it's really exciting game. If you haven't played Skullgirls yet, you really should.
It goes on sale on Steam relatively frequently for absolutely dirt cheap.
Yeah. I think I got it for $2.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Because I'm so excited about that. So speaking of anime and new content coming up, we probably move on to Guilty Gear Strive.
Oh, Guilty Gear Strive.
When it was first announced, like what, last year, 2 years ago?
Something like that, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, full disclosure, the only two Guilty Gear games I played are the same two everyone's played, which is Plus R and Rev 2.
Me too. Well, I started playing with Xrd Sign.
Okay.
So that was the first Guilty Gear game I ever purchased and picked up. But at the time, I hadn't begun like learning fighting games yet.
Yeah.
I was still basically just pressing buttons. But I did play Sign, and then I sort of put it down through Revelator into Rev 2. And honestly, I think the only reason I didn't really stick with it is because it was kind of difficult for me to find a character. Guilty Gear has like this fantastic thing about it where every character is so unique.
Yeah.
And we got to see a lot of that with the Strive reveal, with the Strive reveals, plural. But I'm really excited to actually be able to get into Guilty Gear, because I always felt like it was kind of too late for me at the time, because like Sign and Rev 2 were kind of old by the time I was starting to get into them.
Yeah, Guilty Gear is also the kind of game where the systems themselves are very complex, even compared to other anime fighters. And you could do like the basic char combos with every character, punch, kick, slash, heavy slash,
right,
whatever. But like to really crack it open takes a lot of effort.
Yeah, and like Guilty Gear is one of those games where every character is playing a different game.
Oh yeah,
they all have unique mechanics. They all change the game in some way or another. So it can be really intimidating to get into. But Strive doesn't feel intimidating. And it might just be because the game is so beautiful.
It looks so good. I have no idea how Arc System Works keeps making gorgeous game after gorgeous game.
After gorgeous game. Yeah. I did play the Strive beta, like the first one, like closer to the announce. And I was really excited about Axel. Because Axel was a character that I liked in Rev.
Right.
And now he's full-on JoJo reference.
Does the pose, he stops time. Yeah.
Into combos, into nonsense. Like a zoner.
The time stop looks so crazy too.
A zoner that can stop time. Just think about that, because Axel is a heavily specialized zoning character.
Because I'm trying to think of other fighting game characters that interact with time. And the first one that comes to mind, obviously, is the JoJo fighting games.
With Dio, yeah.
With Dio and Jotaro. But I think Geiger in Fantasy Strike.
Geiger's time stop is kind of weird. Because I've actually recently started playing Fantasy Strike a little bit, and I play Geiger. And his time stop isn't like a true time stop. And like it kind of is, but it also like isn't. Like you don't really have control over him.
Okay.
He sort of stops time and then walks through the other character, and then you have time to do something. Like hit them with a move or a special or whatever. It's not quite as true of a time stop as Axel's, where he literally freezes you where you're standing, gets to hit you a couple times, and then like do a combo, or even worse, combo into the time stop.
Which Mortal Kombat character is it that reduces the timer?
Reduces the timer? That's news to me. I don't know. Is it like a new Mortal Kombat character?
Yes, I believe it's new to Mortal Kombat 11.
So I would think it's like Garrus or Kronika, since they're the ones that... Is Kronika even playable? I don't know. I don't play Mortal Kombat.
No, I don't either, honestly. I don't know. I remember seeing a character that has a super that reduces the timer.
That's interesting.
That's the only other time-related thing I can think of in fighting games. Anyway, yeah. So Axel is a JoJo character. Kai stole Saul's Dragon Install.
And made it not as cool.
Not as cool, but like it still looks really cool.
It does look really cool. I did play Kai for a while when I was, like, recently when I was trying to pick up Rev 2 because I just wanted to play, like, a Shoto, just, like, easy, learn the mechanics character, which Kai is. He's very much a basic bread and butter character.
Yeah, he's the real.
Right. And his Dragon install kind of supports that. Because, like, whereas Soul's Dragon install has always been this crazy, go nuts, I'm a dragon, hear me roar nonsense.
Right.
Kai's is more like, okay, I have a glowy eye now, and the moves that I already have are better.
Yeah.
So like it like buffs his fireballs, from what I could tell. I think it buffs his DP.
Yeah, I think all his fireballs deal 2 hits instead of 1.
Yeah.
For winning his Dragon Soul. And it's Garrus from Mortal Kombat 11.
Garrus does do that, okay.
Yes.
But like Kai, from what I saw in the gameplay that we got, it didn't seem like Kai's game changed a whole lot when he activated Dragon Install.
Not particularly.
No, he just got to do what he was already doing, but better.
Yeah, and it's a comeback mechanic. You can only use it when he's at low health.
That's right. I forgot about that.
But yeah, it's not this crazy hype transformation with its own theme song like Soul's Dragon Install is.
Which I'm gonna miss, because Dragon Install was like the thing that made me like Soul Bad Guy.
Yeah.
And he still like kind of he has a super where he goes Dragon mode.
But it's just a regular super.
Right, it's a super. Yeah. It's not like the animation shows Soul Dragon Install, but he comes out of it after the end of the super.
Yeah.
I think it's a command grab super.
It looks like a command grab, yeah.
Which is terrifying. Command grab supers always scare me. Even in Street Fighter, just like Zangief being close to me with full meter just is not something that I like.
I mean, Zangief being close to you in general is not something that you would ever want, but...
Yeah, Soul looks a lot like Soul. Wild Throw still does insane amounts of damage. Like, I saw the footage from the other day, and Soul just got like a raw Wild Throw, just a command grab, which he's had forever. He's always had that command grab. But it did like 40%.
Jesus.
It was ridiculous. So that's going to be terrifying. Just like that sort of... And Soul is one of those characters... I think Soul is one of those things where he's like deceptively simple. Or like he seems more simple than he actually is.
Yeah.
Because like he's marketed as like almost like the other Shoto, right? Because he has his Fireball, he has Bandit Revolver as a Tatsu.
Yeah, I mean, I would call him closer to Terry Bogard than I would to Ryu.
That's fair.
But even that's an imperfect comparison.
Right.
But yeah, Soul and Kai are just like with any big franchise fighting game. The two characters you really can't change too much.
Right.
But luckily we have new characters.
We do have new characters.
We saw Giovanna. Is she like the first kind of brawler type character?
From what I can tell, I mean, you have...
I mean, you could argue that Jacko is, but she's a zoner. It's not the same thing.
Yeah, Jacko's definitely a zoner. I mean, you have like Raven in Rev, but even Raven's more of like a... I don't want to call him a ninja.
Yeah. But
he's more of like a mix-up intensive kind of character.
Yeah, and Potemkin doesn't really count either because Potemkin is big and grappler.
Maybe May.
Maybe May.
May or Jam.
That's true.
Sort of like your melee, mid-range brawler kind of character. Giovanna looks really cool though.
She does. In the footage, I don't believe we saw anything that her floating dog scarf can do.
No, apart from like the animations that he's involved in.
Yeah, it looks like he's part of her normalness.
Yeah.
But like, I don't remember seeing any specials or supers where the dog was particularly involved.
Yeah, actually, I don't even remember seeing any supers at all. Did we see a super in the...
We didn't. I don't think we did. No.
So, what I thought was really interesting about ArcSys' strategy with this marketing technique that they did was they were like, okay, let's take Guilty Gear players, let them play the game, and then we'll use those matches as promotional material, which on paper sounds like a great idea. But Maximilian said it too in his breakdown video. When these guys are playing, they're playing to win.
Yeah.
They're not playing to show you all the cool stuff that the character can do. The other thing that came to my mind while I was watching it is you have the footage where we saw Giovanna. The Giovanna player was playing against Kai.
Yeah. And
so you have one player playing this character that's been in the franchise since the beginning and is essentially the Shoto of the game, the Ryu. And you have someone else who's playing a brand new character that hasn't been touched yet.
We want to see what the new character does.
We want to see what the new character does, so sticking them into a free environment to let them sort of figure things out, like when they're both fighting their hardest trying to win, you're not really going to get the cool stuff that the new character can do because that player probably doesn't have a grasp on it yet.
Yeah.
So I feel like it would have been a better idea to showcase Giovanna in like a more scripted. I mean, I don't want to use the word scripted, but I guess that is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Like some footage where they deliberately show the cool things that she can do.
Yeah. I'm thinking of trailers for like Smash or Street Fighter. Well, like they show you like all the specials the character can do, a lot of their normals, maybe a few combos, and then finish off with their super or final smash or whatever.
But did we get one of those breakdowns for Giovanna yet? Like the one that we got from Ilya?
No.
Like that would be cool to get. I assume that we'll get one.
Yeah.
But like even the breakdown that they did for Ilya, where they showed you all of her specials and like how they can be used and different ways that the character can move around. Because like Ilya has always been known for her movement. She gets like double air dash. She can double jump and air dash. Yeah. She's, as far as I know, is the only character that has that much air mobility.
Yeah, and then there is a Giovanna character trailer that came out in October.
Yeah, to announce the character, right?
Yeah, I have not watched it in a while, so I don't know off the top of my head whether it actually shows what we're looking for. Yeah, she does use her dog for some stuff, but then she kind of goes like She-Hulk mode where her skin turns green.
Yeah,
we don't know what's up with that yet.
I think the way that works is when Giovanna has more meter, like the more meter she has, the stronger her buttons are.
Right.
So if she has full meter, like her skin turns green and she's in some sort of powered up state, at least I think. That's what I heard.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it seemed like, because as soon as the Giovanna spent meter to do a Roman cancel in the video, the green skin went away.
Right.
But it was there and gone so fast that I almost didn't catch it. Like if the video that I watched, if Max didn't like point it out, I wouldn't have noticed.
That's an interesting mechanic, and I think the only fighting game character I can think of off the top of my head that has something like that, where they get stronger the more meter they have, is, of all things, Tifa in Dissidia Final Fantasy.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know if she worked like that in NT, because I don't play NT, but in Duodecim, the second one that she's in, like the more EX meter she has, when she pops EX mode, she gets equipped with a premium heart. The whole thing in Final Fantasy VII is the higher her limit gauge, the more damage she does.
Right.
So that's what that is.
So there are in Soul Calibur 6, there are a lot of characters that interact with the meter bar.
Okay.
So there's a lot of characters that get extra things if they have full meter when they do things, or you can lethal hit your opponent if they have full meter. So like characters interacting with the status of the meter bar isn't necessarily new to me, but I think it's a really cool concept to put into an anime game, because like especially in one like Guilty Gear where you're using your meter on Roman cancels, like for your pressure and for your combos.
It adds an extra element of risk and reward.
Right.
Yeah. And speaking of weird meters in Guilty Gear, I'm so excited for Nagoriyuki.
Nagoriyuki.
He looks so cool.
He really does. He's just this big vampire dude with a giant sword.
And a cool mask.
And buttons that reach all the way across the screen.
And he can steal blood, and then he can use it to make himself stronger, but it drains his health.
Yeah,
he's like Big Band and Carmine all mixed into one.
Exactly. So like,
and I play both of those characters. So.
So like from what I can tell, like the way his blood gauge works is like as he gets hits, he steals blood from his opponent, and then he fills up his own special blood gauge. Yeah. And I think he has 3 stocks of it.
Yeah.
And he can spend a stock of the blood gauge to cancel a special into a special. And then, so he can extend his combos and stuff that way. And then the other thing he can do with it is when the bar is full, he can spend all of it to activate this sort of vampire install where his buttons do crazy damage, crazy chip damage, and he's just like this massive overpowered version of himself that while he's in this form, his health drains rapidly.
Very, very rapidly.
Very rapidly.
Like in the clip we watched, he pops the install, and then by the time it runs out, he's lost like 60-70% health.
Yeah. And so, but the whole time he's in this mode, he's just completely oppressive.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you don't even want to block, but his buttons take up half the screen. So you have to.
Of course, the trade-off is that he's huge. He's like the Temkin.
He is huge.
Yeah.
I've also heard that he can't air dash.
Yeah, I remember
So
hearing
like he's
that.
a very immobile character, but it's made up for with his range and power. So he's a really interesting character, and I'm excited to see what he does like when the game actually comes out.
I think we still have 2 more characters that have not been revealed yet. I think.
It's either 1 or 2. I don't remember off the top of my head.
I play Jacko, so I got my fingers crossed for Jacko.
Fingers crossed.
I know she's degenerate. I know everyone hates fighting her, but she's fun.
I have fun fighting Jacko. It's like a mini game where you just run around and hit all the tents or whatever they are.
Pumpkins.
The pumpkins,
Yeah.
So before more stuff can come out, it's like I'm not even playing a fighting game at that point.
Yeah. I don't know. It's fun.
Um,
So the beta for that comes the 17th, correct? So
yes, so it's an open beta. You can sign up. From what I understand, if you pre-ordered the game, you get access to the beta 2 days early. I don't know how long the beta will actually go. I don't know how long it lasts.
I don't remember either.
But it is an open beta, so you can sign up and just play it on PS4. I don't know if there is one for PC.
I'd be very surprised if there is, because I don't recall. I don't know. I'd be very surprised if there was.
Yeah. So PS4, PS5, I'm pretty sure both get the beta.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah, it cannot be played until February 17th, 7 p.m. Pacific time. It's going until the 21st.
until the 21st. Okay. So that's 4 days of game time, 6 days if you pre-order.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, we saw some other characters, like we saw Ramathal. We talked about seeing the Soul and the Kai gameplay.
Leo. We saw Leo.
Did we?
Leo Whitefang.
Oh yeah, that's right. We saw the trailer for him.
We saw the trailer for him. Yeah, I think we saw the gameplay.
I was about to say, I didn't notice any gameplay of him. I really like Leo. I think he's a really cool character, so it would be cool to get gameplay of him, or like one of the tutorial breakdowns, like they did for Milia.
Yeah. I want them to do more of that in general, because Guilty is such a complex game, and
Exactly.
yeah, more of that, please. All right. So and now I figure we get into the big news that dropped yesterday, coincidentally, and that is the Street Fighter V Winter Update.
Yes.
I went in expecting Dan, which is what we got.
Right.
I was not expecting most of the other stuff we saw.
We saw so much.
Oh my god.
We saw Dan. We saw Rose.
We saw a preview of Oro at the very end.
We did. We saw a little teaser for Oro at the very, very end.
I'm just thinking, I bought Street Fighter V at launch in 2016, or the summer of launch, and I remember feeling like the game, it was fun, but it was like relatively bare bones.
Yeah.
Didn't have a lot of characters, mechanics weren't that interesting, and now it is both literally and figuratively a completely different game, and it's going to be even a more completely different game next week.
Absolutely.
22nd, I believe, when the update drops.
Yep, that includes Dan.
Includes Dan. The new training mode, which is like, training stage rather, the dark version, which is nice. Then we finally get new uses for the V meter, dude.
The
EFE
V meter.
shifts. It's so good.
The new mechanic is awesome. Before we get into this further, though, I do want to give another shout out to our sponsors. Two Guys Toys
and More.
TwoGuysToysAndMore.com. Big thanks for helping them make this happen. So shout out to those guys. But getting into it, I just kind of want to dive in sort of chronological order of what we saw.
Yes, let's do that.
So first we started with Rose.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first thing they showed us.
Which I was not expecting either. I was expecting just, because Dan was coming out first.
Right.
We start with Dan. But.
Rose looks cool.
Rose was cool.
I did not play Street Fighter 4, so I don't know what she's like, and I didn't play any of the Alpha games. I'm way too young for that. So I don't know what she was like in the older games. So I'm only going off of what I saw in this trailer. And she has an air fireball.
Yeah.
She has an orb set, similar to Menat's, but not quite it's not permanent like Menat's.
Or Strider in Marvel vs. Capcom.
Well, she has that one with V-Skill too.
You're right.
She also has like sort of a zoning one where I think she can choose close, medium, far.
Yes.
And she can set the orb and then it pops. And she can like use that for combos and for zoning. and she has an anti-air command grab, or at least it looks like a command grab.
I remember that.
I don't know if it's actually a command grab or if it's or if it's a hitbox, but it doesn't really matter because it's an anti-air. And you can't air block in Street Fighter. But she looks really cool. Like, she looks like she has a very interesting zoner kit.
Yes.
Her V Skill 1 in particular really interests me because she pulls out the tarot card, and the tarot card has some sort of buff or some sort of debuff to put on the opponent. So, and from what I saw, I can only assume that it's random.
Yeah, they didn't go into detail as the method of picking which card you get.
Right.
So it's probably safe to assume that's random.
Or even what cards they are.
You're right. They didn't go into detail with that either.
So, like, does she get a buff to her meter gain? Does she get a buff to her damage? Or, like, does stuff become safer? Like, we can only guess.
Yeah.
Right? And we can only guess what kind of debuffs she'll give. Like, does she have, like, Fang's Poison, where it, like, deals damage over time until they hit you? Can she slow down the opponent? I'm starting to really think of, like, to go back to Skullgirls for a minute, Valentine's syringes.
Yeah, her needles.
So, like, she can do a damage over time. She has one that... What's the green one? The medium punch one.
I believe that is... she can do damage over time. I believe she can reduce movement.
Oh, it's a slow, right?
It's a slow.
Yeah, it slows them down.
And added input lag.
Yeah, so she can add input lag to her opponent, which I think is a really cool idea. I don't think Capcom is creative enough to try it.
Yeah.
But, like, that concept of debuffing your opponent just really stands out to me, and it really makes me think of that mechanic from Skullgirls. But that's just her V-Skill 1. Her V-Skill 2 is like a Strider-style orb satellite, which I guess she had in the older games, but I guess it was a special move.
No, I was wrong. It wasn't slow movement. It was increased hit stun.
Increased hit stun.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
that's...
Yeah, damage over time, increased hit stun, or input lag.
Right.
So.
Her V-Skill 2 is like an orb satellite, so she, like, summons an orb that rotates around her that is a hitbox, and I'm just imagining, orbiting shells from Mario Kart. If you walk into them, you get hit.
Yeah.
And, it opens up routes for her to combo. She can use it as, like a defensive mechanic almost, like you can't get close to her. Like, it supplements her zoning playstyle.
And she could probably also use them like the knots V-trigger when, like, her orbs surround her. Like, she probably use to extend her combos too.
Most likely, yeah.
Yeah.
And I believe the video said that she can summon 2 of them.
Yes.
So she can have 2 orbs orbiting her at the same time, which I'm really excited to see what Rose mains come into the game and do with that, because those sorts of combos are so cool to see, where you're just, like, setting things up and then, things are hitting that you're not actually hitting buttons for, you're just waiting for an orb to rotate and land.
Yeah. And I'm just happy we're finally getting another zoner in Street Fighter 5.
Yeah.
We really don't have that many. We have Fong, arguably Birdie is a zoner.
Arguably Birdie.
Who else?
I mean, Guile. Almost.
Almost. And Street Fighter 5 doesn't really play like a zoner.
We have Sagat.
We have Sagat, yeah.
But other than that...
Falk.
Yeah. But yeah, getting another zoners is going to be really interesting, especially because the meta for Street Fighter V has been, like, really aggressive.
Yeah.
Up to this point.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. But yeah, Rose looks really cool. I'm going to play her a little bit. I don't usually play zoners myself, so I probably won't spend a lot of time with her, but I'm going to try her just to try her.
Yeah, and I play Jury, who I'm probably going to stick with now that we know that she's getting buffed, which we'll get into a little bit later. We're also going to talk about Dan. But Dan has always been, like, the joke character in Street Fighter.
He's, like, the original joke character.
Yeah, he's the original joke character. But God, he looks so cool in this game.
He really does.
Yeah.
Like, they managed to make him simultaneously hilarious and awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Like, his mechanics are so unique. His moves all look great. It looks like they were having so much fun.
And so he can use V-Skill 1, it says on the Capcom Unity blog, he can open up any combo paths that would not normally be possible, and Dan can make many of his moves safe. And with V-Skill 2, he can cancel almost any normal move, except Crouching Heavy Kick, into another normal or special move, if properly timed.
Yeah, so I was watching, like, they showed, like, the Dan mirror after they went over his V system. And, excuse me, I noticed, like, one of the players that was using V-Skill 2 was doing, like, standing heavy punch on block, V-Skill cancel, cancel the animation into another standing heavy punch. So like, he can create, like, these like, crazy block strings and combos by, like, animation canceling his V-Skill.
And he has these super unique frame traps that theoretically that no other character can have.
Right. The one thing that I do find incredibly interesting, or actually there's two things. The first thing is that both of his V-Skills give himself and his opponent V-meter.
Yeah. Which is a good way of not only balancing both V-Skills, both which are very good, and also, kind of nerfs Dan himself a little bit because he's still supposed to be the Joker.
Right. He's still taunting his opponent being the wacky joke character that he was always known for, but he has like these really cool mechanics attached to it now. And unique mechanics at that.
Yeah, and his V-Trigger 1 only has one bar.
That's so crazy to me. So he has a 1-bar V-Trigger 1 that's just a really big fireball. It's just a giant Hadouken that he can charge, and I guess like if he full charges it, it hits for a wall bounce.
Yeah.
And if they block it, it's a guard break.
Of course, any good self-respecting opponent is not going to let you charge it up to full.
Right.
But the fact that it can do that.
Right. So like that immediately got me thinking of how do I use this? Do I get a crush counter sweep and force them to wake up and block this fully charged V-Trigger?
Yeah.
Because it is a V-Trigger, so you should be able to cancel sweep into it.
One thing that we did not see that I hope they give him is his Raging Demon.
His Raging Demon.
Because Dan has the Satsui no Hado.
That's right, he does. He does. Well, his taunt combo kind of does like the Raging Demon animation almost.
Kind of.
But he doesn't have the Raging Demon.
Yeah.
Which would be really cool if they gave him that.
I'm trying to think of how many games Dan actually uses the Raging Demon in. It's not many. I think he uses it in Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
Maybe. I've never played Dan. I've never picked him in any game, because I am normally not a guy for joke characters. But I'm going to give Dan a try, just because of like the technicality that they included with him.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think is really interesting is his V-Trigger 2. I believe it's a 2-bar V-Trigger. And it buffs his fireballs and his DPs. But not only does it buff them, it gives him access to like just frame versions.
Yeah, it says his fireball gains more hits while his uppercut gains complete invincibility.
Right, so his uppercut is only invincible in V-Trigger. Or I assume if you EX it.
Yeah.
But in V-Trigger, his normal DP is invincible. But there's also something in there that's like, if he presses the button on the same frame as the final directional input, it does an even more buffed version of the move.
It's nuts.
So like it makes the fireball knock down, and it turns the DP into a double hitter like Akuma's EX DP.
That's absolutely nuts.
Yeah. And that just brings me to like Tekken, like Electric Wind God Fist. Like, if you get the just frame right, you get like a buffed version of the move, which is insane to me in Street Fighter.
Yeah, reminds me of the one-frame links in earlier Street Fighter games.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm glad the high risk, high reward execution stuff like that is making a comeback in at least some form.
In some way or another, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know like one frame links don't exist anymore because of the buffering system of Street Fighter V. Personally, I don't really miss them. because trying to go back into Street Fighter 4 and do them is hell.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of older players, are missing that kind of stuff.
Although I'm not good enough at Street Fighter to even know how to take advantage of them.
Right.
Yeah. But speaking of cool new mechanics in Street Fighter V Champion Edition for PS4 and PC, I want to talk about the new
The new
mechanic.
battle
The
mechanic.
new mechanic. It's so good.
V-Shift.
So one of my minor nitpicks with Street Fighter V up until now is that there's not a whole lot you can use the V gauge for. It fills up, you can use your character's V trigger, and then you can use V reversal when you're blocking. And I think I've used V reversal maybe once ever.
So I've used V reversal a lot to try and get out of checkmate situations and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But V reversal has its limits, as it should.
Yeah.
But it's Street Fighter V. I think a lot of people would agree that Street Fighter V has been lacking in defensive options.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that way because I've been playing a lot of Street Fighter lately, and the one thing that I do notice is that on defense, it does not feel like there's a lot of things for me to do.
Yeah. You get stuck in the corner, you get schmixed.
Right.
Rounds over.
Right. And V reversal was sort of helpful for that, but V shift. So just to get into what it is you spend a bar of V meter while your character is in their neutral state.
Mm. So you presumably can't do it when you're in hit stun, block stun, while you're in attacking animation.
Right. And that's a big distinction because V reversal can only be done during block stun.
Right.
So V shift is the opposite, where it cannot be done during block stun.
Mm.
And it's essentially an invincible backdash that, if you successfully backdash an attack, creates a slow-mo matrix feature.
Yeah, your character glows blue, your eyes shine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the most anime thing Street Fighter V has done.
Oh, it's very anime.
It's very anime. But you backdash away from the attack, you go into slow-mo, and then I assume you press the same input again. They didn't tell us what the input for this mechanic actually was.
V-shift break.
Yeah, so you get to do a follow-up attack called a V-shift break. That's almost like an invincible reversal that punishes what your opponent just whiffed.
But then you can also V-shift your opponent's V-shift break.
Right. So the way it looks to me is if you throw a small button into your opponent's V-shift, you can recover in enough time to either block their V-shift break or V-shift it.
Yeah.
So, in the clip where they showed it happen, it's Ryu versus Rashid.
Mm-hmm.
Ryu does a standing medium punch into Rashid's V-shift. Rashid successfully gets the slow-mo, goes for the V-shift break attack, and then Ryu responds to that by V-shifting back and then punishing his V-shift with his own.
Yeah. And I know that this is an imperfect comparison, but I'm reminded the V-shifting reminds me from a functional standpoint to parrying in Street Fighter 3.
It does kind of feel like a parry.
Yeah, like a high risk, high reward defensive maneuver that when you time it well, gets you out of danger for free and opens up your opponent.
Right. So what we don't know is, or at least what I don't know, is how high risk is this?
Yeah.
Because as far as I know, we've only seen the V-shift break hit or get V-shifted.
Yeah.
What happens if I block it? Is it safe? Is it unsafe? I hope it's unsafe.
I hope it's unsafe.
Is it crush counterable like a DP?
How much stun damage does it do?
How much stun damage does it do? How
does
much
shield chip damage?
Yeah, exactly. These are all things that we don't know yet, so we can only speculate. But it is a big, for lack of a better word, shift in the way Street Fighter V is played.
It's the kind of thing that I just really wish was in the game at launch.
Right.
I really do.
And so it kind of hurts a little bit that this is the last season. Capcom has already confirmed that this is the last big update for Street Fighter V.
Yeah, we're getting the 5 characters. It's arguably 6 with 11. in this character pass, and then that's going to be it until Street Fighter 6.
Yeah. That's it.
That's it. In 5 years.
And they introduced this cool mechanic right at the end.
It's so frustrating, man.
Right when so many people have gotten used to the offense-heavy meta of the game, they're like, okay, here, we're gonna throw a wrench in the entire way that the game is played. Introduce a whole new mind game, and then the game's over.
See, like I'm just trying to kind of lab in my brain here. Like I played Juri. Juri's already kind of a hit and run kind of character because she needs to get back to charge her kicks.
Right.
Like if my opponent tries to jump in at me while I'm in the middle of charging my kicks, will I be able to cancel into a V shift? Can I bait the jump in and then cancel into a V shift?
Yeah. So like, we were just speculating, like, what if Guile could V shift a jump in and use that slow mo time to charge a flash kick?
So like use a flash kick immediately after a V shift, not necessarily out of a V shift break.
Yeah, because a V shift break would like cause a knockdown. I assume. So like, but so they didn't. I don't think they showed us how much damage a V shift break does. But I can only assume that it's less than taking like a special, because they did show footage of like Ryu and Rashid doing V shift into EX reversals.
Yeah.
And you're spending V meter and you're spending EX meter, so I feel like that should be a higher reward.
It should be, but that Guile question is a very good one, because I know that considering how crazy of a combo game Guile has in Street Fighter V, like he just charge flash kicks and sonic booms right in your face while he's comboing you.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if he could flash kick or sonic boom immediately after a V shift.
And so Guile can cancel flash kick into super.
He can, can't he?
So if this were theoretically possible, Guile or another charge character could be walking forward. As long as they have V gauge, they could V shift your jump in.
Right.
Use the slow mo to charge, in this case a flash kick you
into super.
All while walking forward, which usually you're supposed to be safe from anti-air flash kick if Guile is walking towards you.
Oh my god.
So like the implications that this mechanic has on the game go beyond just the ability to have another defensive option. Because like we saw footage of Laura incorporating it into a block string and using it offensively. So it's like I'm block stringing you, I V shift to try and catch you trying to mash your turn back.
Right.
So if I expect that you're going to try and hit a button to stop my pressure, I V-shift that button, and I get to keep my pressure.
That's terrifying. I'm so excited.
Me too. It's just such a cool mechanic that I'm so excited about. I could talk all day about the implications and the possibility of V-shift.
And there's also gonna be a big balance patch because the entire game is gonna shift.
Exactly.
Shift.
We keep using that word.
Yeah. And they post clips of just some of the characters with new balance changes, like Juri. Thank God,
Juri buffs.
Oh my God. Like her V skill 2 or V trigger 2. Sorry. It now fully charges all of her kicks at once.
That's so good.
I don't know if it alone is going to make V Trigger 2 worth using, but the fact that it does that is really good.
I've always been a V Trigger 1 player myself. We both play Juri, by the way.
Yeah.
I've always been a V Trigger 1 player myself. V Trigger 2 might be worth taking another look at after this patch. I mean, the entire V system is changing because they have to. Like, Nikali doesn't have infinite V Trigger anymore.
Yeah, it's got a meter now.
Yeah. So they had to really rethink the way that characters use their V meter.
Yeah, I don't like Nikali, so I'm perfectly fine.
Me too.
Yeah. And the last bit of info that it got leaked on Wednesday, and we thought it was going to be a new character, which I guess it technically is 11.
11.
You look at him, you think, oh, that's obviously in the same line as 12 from Third Strike.
But he's not.
It's not 12. It's one less.
One less.
It's one less.
But also so much more.
Objectively speaking, yes, it is so much more. I was really confused because I thought, wow, they're going to put the worst character in Third Strike in Street Fighter V, be able to make him good. But...
So what they ended up doing instead is giving Street Fighter Mokujin before Tekken got Mokujin. So what 11 actually is, not the 5th DLC character on the pass. 11 is a character that you select and then he shifts into a different character on the roster.
Yeah.
So he could take Chun-Li's moveset, he could take Ryu's moveset, he could take Guile's moveset, and it's essentially a random button that doesn't lock you into sets with that.
I don't think we know yet whether it changes characters in between rounds or in between games.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
We don't know yet, but it functions differently from the random button that's already there, and you can presumably use 11 on ranked.
Yeah.
I'm really curious as to see how high an 11 main is going to get on ranked.
It's so exciting to see what's going to happen with that. But now we can do 11 only brackets.
We can do 11 only brackets, yeah.
Which is going to be really fun.
But the one problem I have with Season 5 is that you have to pay more money for a game that I was told was already complete when Seth came out.
Yeah.
But considering what we're paying for,
I'd say it's well worth it.
I'd say it's well worth it.
The season pass is on sale right now, by the way. You can actually, I've already bought it.
Yeah, so they're also doing a free trial on PS4.
Yes, and also the Champion Edition upgrade is on sale.
Yes.
So while we're shilling for Capcom, I do want to give one final shout out to our sponsors, TwoGuysToysAndMore.com. Just another big shout out to them for making this happen. Make sure you check them out for Toys and More.
Thank you so much for sponsoring the show. And one more thing before we wrap up, upcoming online tournaments. Next week is Quarantined Report 3, formerly known as Quarterly Report, but ever since the pandemic started, they shifted to Quarantined Report, and over 70 different fighting game communities all work together to hold this gigantic online tournament, and they support Direct Relief's efforts to fight COVID-19. It's a humanitarian aid organization that fights COVID-19 in all 50 states and over 30 countries. Registration is still open, and it is next weekend, Friday the 19th to Sunday the 21st. What I really like about Quarantine Report is that they have some of the big popular games, right? They have, Soul Calibur 6, they have, I believe they have Mortal Kombat, they have Smash Melee. They don't have Mortal Kombat, my bad. But then they have some of the weirdest, wackiest fighting games you've ever heard of, and a lot of them you probably haven't even heard of.
Shrek Super Slam.
Well, I don't know. I mean, that is the objectively the greatest video game ever made.
Absolutely.
But I'm just going to go down some of these games. You got stuff like Arms and Catherine and Dead or Alive 6 and Fantasy Strike. Then you have stuff. You got Killer Instinct. You have Lethal League Blaze, Maiden and Spell, which I'm definitely entering. I love Maiden and Spell. MVC 2, Pokémon Tournament Deluxe. I'm assuming it's Deluxe. Punch Planet, which is also really good. You have Sailor Moon S, which is infamously one of the jankiest fighting games ever made. SCP Cross Containment, which is
whatever that is.
It's a fan game. It's an SCP fan game. I just learned about it while looking this up for the episode. I'm so excited. Skullgirls, Schwarzer Blitz, Rushdown Revolt, Speedrunners, Third Strike, Tough Love Arena, which is really good. It's free. We're not sponsored by saying you can play it in your browser. It's really good. Tough Love Arena. Windjammers, Ultra Street Fighter 4, like 70 games.
So many games.
Like Tekken 7. You're not going to get a lot of the really big ones. There's no Street Fighter 5. There's no Smash Ultimate. But statistically speaking, there's something here that's going to scratch some kind of itch you have.
Definitely check out Quarantine Report 3
Yes.
coming up next weekend.
It's for a good cause.
It is.
Yes, February 19, 2021. Registration is still open. And I believe it's free to enter most, if not all, the brackets.
Yeah, it is. I know Tekken at least was free.
Yes.
But yeah, so check that out.
Mm-hmm.
With that, that's going to pretty much sum up all the time we have. So thank you guys a lot for tuning into the first episode of Charge Motion. This means a lot to us. This has been a project that's been in the making for a while now.
And you can follow us on Twitter at ChargeMotion. Feel free to follow us, drop any questions you have for us or for the show. We'll try our best to answer them for next week. You can follow me on Twitter at 5Aximus because Saximus was taken.
And you can follow me on Twitter at XGhoul. The O is a 0.
Because X-School, I'm assuming, was also taken.
It was.
Yeah, there you go.
But thank you guys so much. Don't forget to check out Two Guys, Toys and More.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
Good fight, good night.
Goodbye and good night.